Morning gang, it's Mr. Runsby here, ready for part 2 of Grump and the Hairy Mammoth. This episode is called Grump in the Swim, and what I used to like doing as a boy when my dad read me this story was guessing what either Grump would invent or what new skill he would come up with through the story, because that's what it's all about. Grump becomes a hero of the story, not by any purpose, just but by sheer fluke and his hijinks with Herman the Mammoth. Anyway, on to the story. Grump in the Swim. Why do they always pick on me? Grump was muttering to himself as he sagged over his fishing line by the icy lake. He peered down at his reflection of his face in the water. He looked even gloomier than usual. The other Ice Age men had driven him from the best fishing spot by the lake, and he hadn't caught anything all morning. What was worse, he could hear a dreadful buzzing noise which never stopped. Buzz, buzz, buzz. It came from behind him, where the trees edged close to the lake. Grump turned around, and suddenly he felt worse than ever. It's him! It's him again! As if I didn't have enough troubles already! It was Herman the Mammoth, strolling happily in the morning sunshine. He was humming untunefully to himself, but that wasn't the noise that was plaguing Grump. Instead, the buzzing seemed to come from a small black cloud which hovered by Herman's head. Grump frowned and peered more closely. It's a trick, that's what it is, he muttered. That moth-eaten monster wants to make a fool of me again. Any other time, Grump might have made himself ignore the mammoth. He had got the worst of encounters with Herman before, but this was just too much. He reached for a rock near his feet. Take that, you cowardly carpet bag! He hurled the rock with all his might at the mammoth's head. It bounced as harmlessly as a balloon off Herman's hard head. He turned a mild, reproachful eye on Grump. Go away! Go away and polish your tusks, or I'll throw another rock at you. Grump was on his feet now, shouting and waving, rather scared at what he'd done. To his amazement, Herman whisked his trunk once or twice, then trundled off into the trees. Ha! That taught him. And satisfied, Grump returned to his fishing. Then something hit him on the back of the neck. A large, sticky object that almost sent him tumbling into the lake. Help! I'm being bombarded! Grump scrambled like a mad spider to behind a boulder. Finally, he peered nervously over the top, just in time to see Herman strolling back into the trees. What a dirty trick, hitting me when my back was turned. Cheat! Come back and I'll tie a knot in your trunk. Brave. Now that Herman was leaving, Grump was on his feet again, yelling and waving the sticky yellow object that the mammoth had thrown at him. At last he sat down and looked at his hands. They were covered with yellow goo. I'm wondering what you might think that yellow goo is. And it's all good stuff so far. He licked his fingers cautiously. His eyes widened. He licked them again, eagerly this time. He'd never in his life tasted anything so sweet, so toothsome. Soon he was sucking the sticky yellow object excitedly. It's delicious. It's marvellous, he exclaimed. Far too good for a tatty old mammoth. I've got to find out where he gets it. So, wherever he went all the next day, Herman had Grump close behind, slipping from rock to rock, from tree to tree. Stupid thing couldn't see a dancing dinosaur, muttered Grump as he crept along. As soon as he finds more of that lovely yellow stuff, I'll have it. But Grump was becoming rather tired of following Herman. The mammoth roamed far and wide, using the thorniest, dampest paths, and always he had that wretched buzzing cloud with him. Buzz, buzz, buzz. It was driving Grump crazy. Only the thought of that delicious, sticky stuff kept him going. What's he up to now? Grump stopped suspiciously as Herman paused beneath a tree. Suddenly the noise from the small cloud dancing around Herman's head became frantic. Herman reached with his trunk into the crook of a tree and groped around. Soon yellow liquid was trickling down the outside of his trunk. That's it! That's where he keeps the stuff! In triumph, Grump darted forward. For once in his eagerness, he forgot his fear of the great beast. He seized a long stick and drove the mammoth away. Well, he might regret that. Serves him right for trying to hog it, Grump muttered as he scrambled up the tree. Besides, I'm doing him a favour. It only makes his fur all sticky. As he spoke, Grump found a large hollow in the tree, rimmed with sticky yellow. He thrust his hand inside. It was then that he learnt the meaning of Herman's hovering, buzzing cloud. And there is a little picture of our friend Grump about to plunge his hand and arm into that hole full of what I think we know is actually honey. Oh, ow! Ow! With a yell of pain, Grump leaped from the tree. I've overdone it there. Now he had a cloud of his own round his head, a cloud of huge angry bees determined to punish this intruder. Unlike Herman, poor Grump had no thick fur to save him from their stings. He danced, he slapped, he shouted, but it was no use. Oh, ow, oh, stop it, ow, oh. Suddenly Grump was heaved up by the back of his rabbit skin coat. He was carried like a wriggling sack through the forest. The bees were still stinging him, but he was too scared to notice that now. The thing that was holding him was long and grey and looked very much like a mammoth's trunk. Herman had captured him. Put me down, and you can have your rotten old yellow stuff, Grump pleaded. He was still shouting when they reached the lake. Herman looked around anxiously. He knew how ill Grump would be if the bees carried on stinging much longer. Yes, Grump deserved all that he was getting, but Herman had a kind heart. He must put Grump somewhere safe from the bees. Herman lumbered to the lakeside. No, not in there, please don't! Even as he yelled, Grump's mouth was filled with water as the mammoth plunged him into the lake. Help! Save me, someone! Grump sputtered as Herman whisked him up in the air. He's trying to drown me! Help! Down he went again, arms and legs flailing, up and down, like a bunch of wet rags. It was on the 5th time that Grump gave a desperate twist, tore free from Herman's grasp, and thrashed away. Some moments passed before he realised that he was still afloat. Hey, look at me! I'm staying on top, he shouted. I'm not going under like I usually do. He gazed about him in wonder as his splashing arms and legs carried him away from the shore where Herman stood. Fooled you, didn't I? He yelled back at the mammoth and tribe. What shall I call it? Yes, I'm swimming! Grump was afraid of the water no longer. He didn't even mind its coldness. He was filled with the joy of floating, of surging forward. Soon he was even brave enough to duck his head down to look at the fish gliding in their own grey world. Fish! Suddenly Grump thought how amazed and scared the other icemen would be to see him swimming, scared enough to run away and leave their catch of fish on the lake shore. Fish for supper tonight, he chuckled to himself. Lots of lovely fish. He turned and began to swim across the lake to where the other men were fishing, and Herman, who stood watching him on the shore, heard a sound, a very unusual sound. It was Grump laughing. The mammoth stood there for a while after the little man was out of sight. Then, lifting his trunk as if in farewell, he turned and walked into the forest. So, in chapter 2, Grump makes a couple of discoveries. First, he discovers that golden liquid is delicious, and we know it is honey. And secondly, he learns to swim, which is a skill we all need. So, again, he puts himself ahead of the other cave people, not without a little bit of help from our friendly mammoth, Herman. Hope you're all well. Enjoy the story. Until next time, chapter 3 is called Grump the Artist.